My name is Madison Hale. I'm 31 years old, and the day I went to pick up my marriage license, I learned how easily a family can try to erase a life with one correction. I used to believe paperwork was boring. Forms, signatures, stamps, little boxes that keep the world organized. I like that kind of order. It made me feel safe. It made me feel like there were rules, and if you followed them, you could live without surprises. Then my corrected marriage license showed me what paperwork can become in the hands of someone who wants control. It happened on a Thursday afternoon, 2 weeks before my wedding. The sky over Atlanta looked like washed denim, the kind of light that makes everything feel quiet and practical. I parked outside the county probate court with a folder on the passenger seat. My ID, birth certificate copy, proof of residency, and the printout of my online appointment confirmation. Simple, standard. One more step toward a day I had planned carefully. I was not planning a big wedding. I was planning a peaceful one. A ceremony in a small botanical garden. 40 guests. A string quartet. Soft florals. A short dinner with people I actually trusted. No spectacle, no family performance, no forced speeches. The most expensive thing was the photographer, because I wanted memories I could trust. I wanted proof of my own happiness. I walked into the building and took a number. The waiting area smelled like printer toner and disinfectant. A TV mounted high on the wall played a muted news channel with captions running too fast. I sat and breathed through a quiet pulse of anxiety I couldn't fully explain. My body had a way of anticipating trouble before my mind caught up. My phone buzzed with a message from my fiancé, Ethan. "You're almost done, babe. Then we're officially official." I smiled, warm and nervous. Ethan Reed, 33, emergency room nurse, calm under pressure. The kind of man who can hold a crying child in one arm while explaining stitches in the other. The kind of man who never treats my boundaries like a joke. We met 3 years ago when my friend dragged me to a charity run. I almost didn't go. I almost stayed home with my cat and my comfort routines. I almost missed the man who changed my definition of safety. Ethan never pushed me into chaos. He invited me into stability. My family hated that. Not openly at first. Not in a way they could be blamed for. They hated it in small, strategic ways. My mother would call Ethan sweet in a tone that reduced him. My older sister would forget his name. My father would frame concerns as questions that were really warnings. Dad, are you sure you want to settle down so quickly? Quickly. 3 years felt like an eternity to me. It felt like enough time to see someone in every season. Enough time to watch consistency prove itself. But my family never measured time by love. They measured it by control. My number lit up on the screen above the counter. Window 6. I stood, smoothed my dress, and walked toward the clerk behind the glass. She looked mid-40s, hair in a tidy bun, glasses perched low. She had the expression of someone who had seen every version of human behavior and trusted none of it. Clerk. Marriage license application. Me. Yes, appointment for Madison Hale. I slid my folder through the slot. She typed and clicked, eyes moving across her screen. Her expression changed. Not dramatic, not shocked, just careful. Like she had stepped on something sharp and didn't want to move too quickly. Clerk. Ms. Hale, there's a note on your file. My stomach tightened. Me. A note? Clerk. A correction request. The words landed like a small stone dropped into water. Me. Correction request from who? The clerk's eyes flicked back to the screen. Clerk. A family representative. Representative. My pulse started climbing. Me. No one represents me. Clerk. The request includes supporting documents. My throat went dry. Me. What documents? The clerk turned the monitor slightly so I could see. A scanned driver's license, my mother's. A scanned utility bill with my name, my childhood address, and a date from years ago. A signed statement of concern that I recognized instantly because it used my mother's favorite phrases. Emotionally fragile. Prone to impulsive decisions. Family expresses concern about coercion, requesting verification and correction for accuracy. Accuracy. My fingers went numb. Me. This is insane. Clerk. There is also a change submitted for the groom's information. My heart hammered. Me. Change to what? The clerk clicked. A different name appeared under intended spouse. Not Ethan Reed, someone else. A man I hadn't seen in 9 years. My ex, Kyle Morgan. My vision blurred. The room tilted the way it does when your body decides reality is too much. Me. That's not my fiancé. Clerk. The correction request claims the original entry was submitted under confusion and that the intended spouse is Kyle Morgan. My mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. Because my mother had just tried to rewrite my marriage. Not metaphorically, literally. My hands gripped the counter edge through the glass. Me. I did not submit that. Me. I did not authorize that. Me. Kyle is not part of my life. The clerk's eyes stayed steady. Clerk. We need to freeze processing until we verify identity and intent. Freeze. 2 weeks before the wedding. Me. I'm right here. Me. You can verify me. Clerk. I can verify you. Clerk. I cannot verify the online submission trail without the audit. Audit. The word gave me a small grip on reality. Me. Please start the audit. The clerk nodded. Clerk. We will notify our supervisor and the fraud prevention liaison. Clerk. Also, you should know the correction request includes a request for expedited issuance. Expedited. So it could be processed before I arrived. I felt heat rise up my neck. Me. Who initiated it? Clerk. It lists Diane Hale as the requester. My mother. My lungs tightened. Not because I was surprised, because a part of me had hoped for once I was wrong about her. The clerk slid my documents back through the slot. Clerk. We'll need you to step into conference room B for a verification statement. Everything suddenly felt like I was on trial for my own wedding. I followed a staff member down a hall lined with posted notices about fees and forms. My footsteps sounded too loud on the tile. Inside the small room, a supervisor joined us. Her badge read M. Alvarez. She was calm and direct. Alvarez. Ms. Hale, we have a correction request that conflicts with your application. Alvarez. We need to confirm your identity and your intended spouse. Me. My intended spouse is Ethan Reed. Alvarez typed. Alvarez. Do you have his information? Me. Yes. I handed over the printout Ethan and I had prepared. Full legal name, date of birth, address, and IDs for both of us. Alvarez reviewed it. Alvarez. Now, the correction request claims you are engaged to Kyle Morgan and that your family is concerned about coercion. Do you know Kyle Morgan? My jaw tightened. Me. I dated him years ago. Me. He was abusive. Me. I left. Alvarez's eyes sharpened. Alvarez. Is he in contact with you? Me. No. Alvarez. Is your mother in contact with him? I froze because I didn't know, but I could imagine it. My mother loved old versions of my life. Old versions were easier to control. Me. I don't know. Me. I wouldn't put it past her. Alvarez nodded like she believed me. Alvarez. We will place an immediate hold on this file. Alvarez. We will require in-person issuance only. Alvarez. We will also flag for attempted fraud. Seeing my mother's behavior called what it was felt surreal. Alvarez printed a short form. Alvarez. Sign here, confirming Ethan Reed is your intended spouse, that the correction request is unauthorized, and that you request investigation. My hand shook as I signed. Alvarez. We will contact you when the audit is complete. Alvarez. If your ceremony is in 2 weeks, we'll prioritize. I left the courthouse with the same folder, but my world felt different. My phone buzzed again. Ethan. How did it go? My thumbs hovered. I didn't want to type this. I didn't want it to be real. Me. Something happened. Call me now. He called immediately. I answered and stood beside my car, staring at my shaking reflection in the window. Ethan's voice held steady concern. Ethan. Talk to me. Me. My mom filed a correction request. Me. She tried to replace you on my marriage license. Silence hit, thick and dangerous. Ethan. Replace me with who? My throat tightened. Me. Kyle. Ethan exhaled slowly, the way he does when his job requires him to stay calm while his body wants to run. Ethan. Okay. Ethan. We handle it. Ethan. You're not alone. Not alone. That phrase mattered more than I could explain. Because for most of my life, any conflict with my family meant isolation. They specialized in making sure people stood alone when they resisted. Ethan. Come home. Ethan. We build a plan. Kyle Morgan was the ghost my mother tried to resurrect. I hadn't spoken to him in 9 years. I hadn't typed his name in any form. I hadn't searched him online. I treated him like a locked room in a house I no longer lived in. But my mother always treated locked rooms as invitations. Kyle and I met in college in Florida. He was charming in public, possessive in private. He had a way of making the world smaller until it was just him and my fear. The breakup wasn't a breakup. It was an escape. I left in the middle of the night with my clothes in garbage bags and a bruise I noted myself wasn't real enough to count. I drove to my aunt's house 2 states away and slept on her couch for a month. My mother's reaction when she found out was not comfort. It was logistics. Mom, what did you do to make him angry? Mom, relationships take work. Mom, you can't run from conflict. I learned then that my mother did not value my safety. She valued control and appearance. Kyle wanted control too. That was the problem. I built my life after Kyle like someone rebuilding after a storm. New city, new job, new locks, new phone number, new boundaries. Ethan was the first man who made my body unclench. And my mother wanted to replace him with the man who made me afraid to breathe. That wasn't an accident. It was punishment. At home, Ethan made tea and sat with me at the kitchen table. Our apartment was small and warm and ours. A plant sat by the window, leaning toward light. A stack of wedding invitations waited beside it. I felt nauseated looking at them. Ethan placed his hand over mine. Ethan, we take control of the paperwork. Ethan, we call the court supervisor. Ethan, we request full audit documentation. Ethan, we set a password with the court. Ethan, we freeze online changes. He spoke like he was triaging an emergency, because he was. My family operated like an emergency, sudden, loud, destabilizing. Ethan knew how to keep a heart beating in chaos. He knew how to create structure when panic tried to swallow the room. Tessa arrived that evening, my best friend since my first job in Atlanta. Tessa Park, 31, corporate compliance specialist, the kind of person who believes in policies the way my mother believed in charm. When I showed Tessa the printouts the clerk had given me, her face went still. Tessa, this is identity manipulation. Tessa, this is reportable. I swallowed. Me. It's my mother. Tessa, that doesn't make it less reportable. Tessa, it makes it more predictable. Tessa opened her laptop and built a timeline. Thursday, 1:12 p.m. Correction request filed. Thursday, 1:13 p.m. expedited issuance requested. Thursday, 1:14 p.m. groom name swapped. Thursday, 1:20 p.m. note added about coercion. Thursday, 2:05 p.m. I arrived. My mother almost succeeded because she went first. Tessa, we treat this like fraud. Tessa, we don't treat it like family drama. Family drama was my mother's camouflage. Fraud was the truth. That night, my mother left a voicemail. Her voice sounded soft, worried, loving. Mom, honey, I heard you went to the courthouse. I hope you're okay. Mom, there was some confusion with the paperwork. I just want to make sure everything is correct. Mom, call me so we can fix it. Fix it, her favorite word. Fix it meant surrender. I didn't call. I saved the voicemail. The next morning, the court supervisor emailed. They pulled the submission metadata. The correction request came from a device in my mother's city. The supporting documents uploaded from the same IP. The email associated with the submission changed minutes earlier from mine to one I didn't recognize. A throwaway address with my initials. My mother didn't just submit a request. She attempted to reroute communication. Alvarez provided an option. In-person issuance only, with photo verification and a password code. She recommended filing a police report for identity theft. My stomach dropped. Police report. Ethan squeezed my shoulder. Ethan. We do it. Ethan. This is the line. We went to the precinct. The officer at the desk listened, expression skeptical at first, then sharper when I showed the documents. He didn't care that it was my mother. He cared that a legal record was being manipulated. He gave me a case number. Case number? Another form of protection. The story could have ended there, with paperwork fixed and a wedding saved. My mother had other plans. 2 days later, a private number called my phone. I didn't answer. A text arrived from an unknown number. Unknown. We need to talk about the wedding license. My skin went cold. I stared at the words until my eyes hurt, because there were only 2 people who would text that sentence. My mother or Kyle. I didn't respond. I forwarded it to Tessa. Tessa. Do not engage. Tessa. Save it. Tessa. We document. Another text arrived. Unknown. You're making a mistake. Unknown. Your family wants what's best. Best. My mother's favorite weapon. I blocked the number. 3 more numbers tried. Someone had access to my number again. Ethan and I changed our phone plan security. PIN codes, account locks, no number porting without in-person ID. Tessa checked my email forwarding rules. She found a new one. Court emails forwarding to an address I didn't recognize. My chest tightened. Me. She's inside again. Tessa. Yes. Tessa. She's persistent. We removed the rule, changed passwords, enabled 2-factor authentication on everything, and created a new email just for legal and wedding documents. That new email was not connected to my childhood security answers. My mother could not guess it. A week before the wedding, the court completed their internal audit. They confirmed attempted unauthorized changes. They confirmed my in-person verification blocked issuance under the wrong name. They confirmed the correction request was flagged. They issued our marriage license in person, with Ethan beside me, our IDs checked twice, our password code verified, and a clerk who looked relieved to hand it over. I held the paper like it was a shield, because it was. The clerk stamped it and slid it across the counter. Clerk, this is valid. Clerk, keep it secure. Clerk, do not allow anyone else to handle it. Anyone else. My mother would love to handle it. We placed it in a locked folder at home, then in a safe. Tessa laughed, not unkind. Tessa, your mom is the reason safes exist. I wanted to laugh too, but my throat tightened instead, because safes exist for thieves. The wedding rehearsal was supposed to be calm. Instead, my mother arrived uninvited at the botanical garden, wearing a pale blue dress and a smile that suggested she was the hostess. She approached me near the arch where soft white flowers framed the aisle. Mom, look at you. Mom, so beautiful. Mom, I'm proud, proud, a word she rarely used without a condition. I stared at her, my hands trembling. Me, you tried to change my marriage license. Her smile held. Mom, that's exaggerated. Mom, I fixed a mistake. Me, you replaced Ethan with Kyle. Mom's eyes hardened for a second. Mom, Kyle is family. Mom, Kyle understands you. Mom, Ethan is controlling you. Controlling, projection. I felt heat in my chest. Me. Leave. My mother's eyebrows lifted. Mom. Excuse me? Me. Leave. Me. This venue is private. Me. You are not invited. My mother's face shifted into wounded innocence. Mom. You can't uninvite your mother. I breathed slowly. I gestured toward the garden coordinator, who had already been briefed by Tessa. The coordinator approached with security nearby. Coordinator. Ma'am, this is a private event. Coordinator. You need to leave. My mother looked around, realizing her charm wasn't landing. She stepped closer to me, voice low. Mom, you're making a mistake. Mom, you're humiliating me. Me, you humiliated yourself when you committed fraud. Her face flushed. She turned, stormed away, and I felt my body shake. Not from fear, from relief. On the wedding morning, I woke early and sat by the window, watching light move across the floor like a slow tide. Ethan slept beside me, breathing steady. I thought about my childhood. My mother treated my life like a project. She controlled my friendships, my clothes, my college applications. She hid things for my own good. She handled conversations I didn't want to have. She filtered my reality through her version. When I turned 18, I thought moving out would end it. It didn't. It just changed form. She became concerned. She became helpful. She became worried. She became an advocate. She used those words like keys. And I let her, because I thought love required access. I knew better now. Love does not require access. Love requires consent. The ceremony was small and quiet, the way I needed it. The garden smelled like earth and flowers and rain from the night before. Sunlight filtered through leaves, painting moving shadows across the aisle. Ethan stood at the front, hands clasped, eyes shining. Tessa sat in the first row, watching like a guard dog disguised as a bridesmaid. My mother was not there. Neither was my father. Neither was my sister. At first, I felt a hollow ache. Then I felt something else. Safety. The officiant spoke about partnership and choice, about building something intentional. Ethan and I exchanged vows, our voices trembling. I held his hands and felt my body settle. We signed the marriage license afterward, in a small room at the garden, the paper on a table, the pen placed carefully. No drama, no interruption, no corrections, just truth. The aftermath arrived anyway. My mother emailed relatives. She framed my absence of contact as instability. She framed Ethan as controlling. She framed herself as heartbroken. She posted a photo of me at 16, with a caption about losing a daughter. People commented with sympathy. Some messaged me with concern. I responded with one sentence and one attachment. Me. There was attempted fraud on my marriage license. Me. Here is the case number. The case number shut down conversations quickly. Some relatives apologized. Some went silent. Some chose my mother's version because it was easier. I didn't chase them. I didn't debate. I documented and moved forward. 2 months later, the final twist arrived. The court mailed a notice, an inquiry related to a second application submitted in my name, with Kyle Morgan listed again, requesting a duplicate issuance due to lost paperwork. My stomach dropped. My mother tried again after the wedding. She wasn't trying to stop my marriage anymore. She was trying to create a competing record, a shadow marriage, a paper weapon. Tessa helped me respond with the police report case number, the prior audit findings, and a formal request for permanent security flags on my identity in the court system. The court confirmed my file would require in-person verification for any future requests, plus a password phrase not derived from personal history. My life was now protected by something my mother couldn't manipulate: bureaucracy with locks. A year has passed since my wedding. I'm still married. Ethan and I still laugh in the kitchen. He still folds towels like a nurse folds sheets, all corners in order. I still like forms when they protect instead of trap. My relationship with my family is quiet and distant. My mother sends occasional messages framed as concern. Mom, I miss you. Mom, I worry. Mom, let's move on. Move on without accountability. I don't respond. Not because I hate her, because I finally understand what she tried to do. She didn't try to save me. She tried to own my story. She tried to force my life back into a version that made her feel powerful. She used my past partner as a lever. She used the court as a tool. She used my name as currency. And she almost succeeded, because I used to treat paperwork like background noise. Now I treat it like what it is: power. If someone in your life is charming in public and controlling in private, pay attention to what they touch. Do they respect your consent? Do they respect your choices? Do they respect your documents? A loving parent brings comfort. A controlling parent tries to correct your life. I'm 31. I'm an American woman. And my marriage exists because I protected it, with the one thing my mother couldn't rewrite once it was locked in place: the truth. The part that still haunts me is how plausible her story sounded on paper. That is the danger of bureaucratic language. It makes manipulation look neutral. Correction, verification, concern, accuracy. Those words carry authority. They don't look like harm. They look like responsibility. My mother relied on that. She relied on the fact that clerks see frantic families every day and assume the loudest concern is the truest. She relied on the fact that a woman in her 60s with neat hair and a soft smile reads as safe. She relied on the fact that daughters get doubted when they contradict mothers. I think about the clerk at window 6 and how her face changed when she saw my file. If her instinct had been weaker, if she had been tired, if she had been rushed, my mother might have succeeded. A marriage license is not only a document, it is a gate into legal benefits, identity changes, family rights, insurance, medical decisions, housing, taxes. My mother didn't just try to swap a name, she tried to shift the gate. The vendors became another battlefield. A week after the courthouse incident, my florist emailed a polite confirmation for an updated invoice. The invoice included changes I didn't request: a larger arrangement order, an added delivery address in my mother's city, and a note claiming the ceremony location had changed. I felt my stomach drop, not because of flowers, because it was the same pattern: change small systems, create confusion, make the victim look disorganized. Tessa created a vendor protocol that afternoon. Every vendor received the same message from my new legal email: all changes require written approval from Madison Hale and Ethan Reed. Two-factor verification required. No phone changes accepted without password phrase. Each vendor noted with agreement. Seeing professionals accept my boundary without drama felt like a miracle. My mother used drama as leverage. Boundaries removed leverage. Kyle tried to contact me once. One email from an address that looked new, with a subject line that made my heart seize: long time. The body contained two sentences: I heard you're getting married. Call me. No greeting, no apology, no respect. Just entitlement. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. Ethan stood behind me, reading over my shoulder, his body still. Ethan, you don't respond. Me. I won't. I forwarded it to our records folder. Then I blocked the address. I also realized something else. My mother almost certainly gave Kyle my contact. She opened the door on purpose. That was not a misunderstanding. That was strategy. When I was 12, my mother kept a journal on the kitchen counter titled Madison's Behavior. I remember it because it made me feel like a specimen. She wrote down my moods, my arguments, my tears, my friendships, my attitude, not because she wanted to understand me, because she wanted evidence. Evidence that she was right. Evidence that she was the authority. Evidence that I was difficult. At the time, I didn't have words for what it did to me. Now I do. It trained me to distrust my own mind. If my emotions could be turned into a log against me, then the safest way to survive was to have fewer emotions. So I learned to be calm. I learned to be agreeable. I learned to be quiet. Then I met Ethan and started learning something else. Calm is not the same as silence. Boundaries can be calm. Documentation can be calm. And you can be calm while refusing. After the wedding, I wrote a letter to my mother. Not to reconcile, to clarify. I didn't mail it. I kept it in my journal like a closing statement. I know what you did. I know it was intentional. I know you used concern as a disguise. I know you used Kyle as a lever. I know you tried to reroute court communication. I know you tried again after the wedding. I am not confused. I am not controlled. I am not yours to manage. My marriage is not a family project. My life is not a document for you to edit. Access is not love. I read it sometimes when the guilt tries to return. Guilt is the aftertaste of old control. The antidote is clarity. One afternoon, months later, a package arrived with no return address. Inside was my childhood baby blanket, folded neatly, and a note. Remember who you are. My hands trembled. The blanket smelled faintly like my mother's house. The note felt like a hook. Not comfort, a hook. I folded the blanket back into the box and placed it in the closet. I wasn't going to let nostalgia become a trap. I could remember who I was without surrendering who I am. The most important thing that changed after the courthouse incident wasn't the marriage license. It was my reflex. My old reflex was to explain, to defend, to convince. My new reflex is to document, protect, and move forward. That shift is not dramatic. It is quiet. It looks like changing passwords. It looks like verifying contacts. It looks like keeping a case number. It looks like a safe in a closet. It looks like refusing phone calls that come with guilt. It looks like a peaceful wedding with no corrections. I'm 31. I still love order. I just love the kind that protects me, not the kind that can be used to erase me. And I will never again underestimate a form. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise. I learned to treat every official system like a door. If someone keeps trying to force their way in, the problem is not your boundaries. The problem is their entitlement. Entitlement hides under kindness, under worry, under family language. Logs remove the disguise.